Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. It is main event week. All three regions, Asia, EMEA, and North America are all having their final main events before we get to the Dallas Major this weekend. So by the time we go to sleep on Sunday, we will know the entire field of 8 that will be competing at the Dallas Major next month. But before we get there, of course, we have to play through our main events. So today, let's talk about the Asia main event, which will be kicking off first of the 3. Of course, all of them kicking off on Friday, but Asia will be starting earlier in the day, of course. 8 teams from across the 3 regions, Korea, Japan, and Pacific, all competing. So let's throw up the bracket real quick. This is the this is like just like the basic bracket. No picks or anything filled in, but you can see the teams. You have Team Falcons at the top. They are the 1 seed coming out of the Korea region. They are competing against DAF, the runner-ups in the Pacific region. You have Veryl, the winners from Japan, up against Yeti, the winners from the wild card event. They were the 4th place seed out of Korea. You have From the Gamer, the 3rd place seed out of Korea, versus Honeypot, the winner from the Pacific region. And finally, you have Insomnia, the runner-ups from Japan, versus Crazy Raccoon, the runner-ups in the Korea region. So some very, very good teams, some really, really exciting matches coming up. Let's throw up now my filled-in bracket so you can see all of my picks that I am making. I'm pretty confident in a lot of these games. It's really just when you get to that upper bracket final, that grand final, it's kind of a coin flip. But as you can see right off the bat, I am pretty confident we are going to be dealing with a Korea sweep here. As much as I like Veryl as a team, and I'm really glad to see Honeypot here, they won their regions. They deserve some respect. I simply do not think either of those teams have what it takes to topple any of the teams coming out of Korea. DAF is a team that we know can beat Honeypot. They split their matches in the Pacific region, but I don't think either of those teams are going to really have a lot of success here. And I think the same goes for Japan as well. You just consider the fact that we saw Japan, which is basically this World Cup team. This Veryl team is basically the Japan World Cup team. We saw them play against Team South Korea, which a lot of Team South Korea is Team Falcons. We saw them play. It wasn't particularly close. And I don't see a world really in which we don't get big wins from Korea in the first round. So I think Team Falcons wins over DAF. I think Veryl over Yeti is the only potential upset here. But even then, I still think Yeti's very good. I mean, Yeti is the first team that beat Crazy Raccoon, or formerly WAC. This team is also very good. For being the 4th place team out of Korea, they're still a phenomenal team with a lot of great talent. From the Gamer against Honeypot, I love FTG. I've been singing FTG's praises for a while. I love the talent on that team. I think that team has been very good. I think that team has been very underrated and very, very, very undervalued by a lot of people in the community. I still think a lot of people don't recognize just how good this FTG team is and has been. I've been very impressed with them. I still think they're a very good team. So I don't think they'll struggle against Honeypot. And then Crazy Raccoon, they're up there with Team Falcons as the best teams arguably in the world right now. And I don't think Insomnia can really stand up to them. So, yeah, I think Korea sweep in the quarterfinals. Probably 3-0 across the board. I think they're the better teams there. As you move into the semis, I'm going to take the top seeds. I believe in Falcons and Crazy Raccoon to be the teams that make it out of that semis and make it to the upper bracket final. I think they are just that good. I have a little bit more faith in FTG to get an upset over a Crazy Raccoon than I do Yeti. I think Yeti is a good team, obviously, but they're still young and relatively inexperienced on the big stage. Team Falcons is a bunch of Overwatch League champions, as does Crazy Raccoon. And I think when you consider that fact, I think it's very clear that you just have a better understanding of how to kind of turn some of those fights, how to kind of play into a crowd, all that type of stuff. I think that's just a little bit better with these teams, and I think they just have the better talent in general. I think it's potentially close, but I still think Falcons and Crazy Raccoon should be able to walk away from this one. But if there were an upset, I think FTG is the more likely upset, because I think they have shown a little bit more, and they've played Falcons and Crazy Raccoon very, very close. Yeti beat Crazy Raccoon, FTG has not, but I thought Yeti disappointed a bit after that one good weekend. They kind of fell off a little bit after that. So that would set up a Team Falcons versus Crazy Raccoon upper bracket final. They've already played 3 times before. They split. Crazy Raccoon 1-2, Falcons 1-1, but Falcons won the finals to make it into the main event from Korea. So they arguably won the bigger game. So it'll be interesting to see if that's a trend that continues, where Crazy Raccoon might take the first meetings, but when it comes to the grand final or whatever, it's Team Falcons that walks away victorious. But I'm going to take Crazy Raccoon in this first one just because I think they are the team they've won a few more games. I think it's very close. I think both these teams are very, very good. I think a lot of it will come down to what gets played, what the meta is. I'm not really sure what Korea is looking like right now. It's been a while. It's been a couple weeks since they've played. I haven't been following scrims or anything like that, but I've been very impressed by Crazy Raccoon. They're a very good team, and so I'm going to take them, at least in this one, to take that game. Moving back down to the lower bracket, let's go back to the beginning of that lower bracket, back to our Japanese and Pacific teams. Varel against DAF. Give me Varel. I think Varel is the best team in Asia that is not playing in Korea, except for maybe if the Hangzhou Spark or Team China comes back. That team also is very, very good and also would probably be better than this team. But I think when you're looking at just the best teams outside of Korea in Asia, I think Varel's number 1 there. So I think Varel has the clear distinction of being a cut above the rest, which is why I think it's a shame the way that this format is done in Asia, because I think Varel has done enough, in my opinion. Like, to me, Japan should have a realistic shot to move on, but they are still behind where Korea is. And I hope, my genuine hope is that with China coming back into the OWCS, my hope is that we get a different breakdown of regions in the future. My ideal would be Korea is its own region entirely. It's not even a part of the Asia region. It is Korea, and the winners of the Korea region get 2 qualifiers to whatever major and whatnot you have. And then you can group China and Japan and Pacific in as the Asia region and let those teams fight it out. Because I just think that the way it is now, it is just way too detrimental to teams outside of Korea, because they get the improvement of getting to play against teams from Korea, but they are so far behind at the current moment that I think what's better is to let those teams learn from each other and improve upon each other and play against teams from North America and EMEA and Korea when they get to the big stage at things like a Dallas Major or whatever, like the Stockholm Major, Worlds Championship, whatever it is, at the end of the year. Obviously, there's going to be Esports World Cup. There's a potential, depending on what happens at the Dallas Major, that a team like Varel could make it to Esports World Cup. I know there's a couple of paths and things like that, so we could see Varel play on a bigger stage somewhat soon, but we don't know exactly what's to come there. But this is all a little mini tangent to say that I think Varel is the better team than DAF, and I think they should beat DAF, and I think that we will see a pretty good look from Varel, at least in that game. They've yet to lose a game at OWCS. That will not continue through this tournament, but they have been very dominant in Japan right now, and all year. They have literally not been tested, if I'm honest with you, in Japan, so I don't see them losing to DAF. I just think Varel's phenomenal right now. Then I have Honeypot taking the win over Insomnia. I think this is probably the closest game in the entire bracket. I like Honeypot. They're a pretty good team. They're a mix of players. They have some Australian players. I believe they have some Korean players, and a couple of other Asian Pacific players. So it's a really interesting team. I think Honeypot is just a fun team to look at and fun team to root for. I hope that this game is pretty good, because getting to see some of the talent from other parts of the world excel is always nice, and getting to see some players that aren't just the same players we've seen kind of dominating in Korea for a long time is always nice, and getting to see regions like Asia Pacific and even Japan pop off a bit is always fun. So I hope it's a good game, but I do favor Honeypot a little bit more than I do Insomnia. I think that they've proven a little bit more to me, so that's who I'm picking for that one. This would set up another situation for me that I favor the Korean teams. I think FTG beats Varel. I think Yeti beats Honeypot. Like I said, I think FTG is very, very good. I think they're the most likely team to potentially win via an upset. If we're talking about a team outside of the top two projected picks to make it, I think FTG is the most likely. Yeti also still better than Honeypot, and I think there's not really a lot of reason to think otherwise. This to me is going to be the unfortunate reality of these Asia tournaments, unless we get a separation later on down the road. Maybe that's next year or whenever. But for now, I think Korea is going to be very dominant, and they're going to continue to look really good as this carries on, because it's just very difficult to catch up to Korea now. It'll take some time, and I don't think people are quite there yet. So as much as it's the kind of thing where Varel might be able to compete if they were in Korea with some of the other teams, I don't think they're going to compete with the best teams that are coming out of Korea, which is what you have here. But this would set up a game between FTG and Yeti. I'm picking FTG. FTG has beaten Yeti both times they've played. I don't know if they've played twice or three times. I think they've played three times, and I think FTG has won all three. FTG, to me, is firmly the third best team in Korea. At worst. They are very, very good. They're very consistent. The only teams that they really struggle against are Falcons, Crazy Raccoon. Even then, they still look pretty good against those teams. So I think they should be pretty consistently picked to be the third place team in this group. I really like what we have seen from FTG. I think they are a phenomenal team. I love this team, honestly. If I had to pick a team to root for in Korea, I hope it's FTG. I want FTG to surprise everybody. I would love to see them compete at the Dallas Major. I think it's a shame the only two teams from Korea get to get out, because FTG is probably better than anybody else that could make it to Dallas outside of maybe the Toronto Defiant. The Defiant might be a better team. I don't know if they're better necessarily, or if they are as good. I think they're in a similar boat. But to me, there's a tier of teams that could win it all, and the fact that FTG probably won't get the chance at all is unfortunate. But FTG definitely capable of winning in an upset, as I've said, and I think that sets up their game against Falcons very interestingly and very nicely in the lower bracket final. I'm taking Team Falcons. I don't think there's going to be a major upset. I think tournament games like this, where the games really, really matter from top to bottom, where there's not really a time to be like, oh, we can take this game a little bit easy. You have to be really, really all in for games like these, in these big events, these big moments, these huge tournaments. So I think it's most likely going to be pretty clinical wins from Falcons and Crazy Raccoon throughout this tournament. I just think they have the pedigree, they have the talent, they have the history behind them. I just think there's a lot of things to look at to feel pretty good about these teams being the teams that make it on. And that sets up a grand final of Crazy Raccoon versus Team Falcons. Once again, literally could go either way. I don't really care. If you told me you have Falcons winning both, I'd say, okay, that makes sense. If you told me you had Falcons winning the first and Crazy Raccoon winning the second, or vice versa, or Crazy Raccoon winning both, any of those options are equally as possible, right? Crazy Raccoon and Team Falcons, they're the top 2 teams in Korea. They're the top 2 teams in the world. When we get to Dallas, I would be shocked if they are not both in the top 3. I do think the Toronto Defiant are also a very good team. And I think when you have players like Someone and Merritt leading that team, we have seen that literally that core roster, because it's those 2 plus RuPaul, won the Overwatch League last year. You have Sugar Free, who's unbelievable on DPS, and you have Vega on support. That is the only other team that I could see competing with these 2 teams at all. And even then, I don't think it would be likely that the Defiant would beat both of these 2 teams. I think these 2 teams look really, really good. And I think they are the favorites for a reason to get out of Asia. They were the favorites to get out of Korea. And they both did it in a pretty dominant fashion. So for me, no real reason to doubt either of these teams to be the teams that make it out. I'm sure everybody else out there feels the exact same way that I do, that these are the 2 best teams in Asia. And I think there is a lot of reason to believe that these are 2 of the teams we're going to be seeing compete for the trophy when the Dallas Major comes around. That is going to be all, though, for me for today. Let me know in the comments down below your thoughts. Do you agree with me? Do you think these are the top 2 teams in Korea or in Asia? Or do you think I am underrating a team? Do you think I'm overrating a team? Whatever it may be, let me know in the comments down below. But that is going to be all for me for today. If you enjoyed this video and want more like it in the future, consider liking and subscribing. I've got 2 more of these bracket videos on the way. We're talking EMEA, we're talking NA, so all week we got brackets. Bracket after bracket after bracket. So stay tuned for those if you want more of those. But like I said, that is all. Hope you're all staying safe and staying healthy. And until next time, bye-bye.